What you're about to hear is the most powerful and least talked about system of human influence ever discovered. I've spent weeks studying the darkest corners of psychological history, analyzing the men who never begged for respect, never chased approval, and never once had to raise their voice to make entire rooms fall silent. Today, I'm going to break down exactly how they did it and hand you the same 3 weapons they used. But first, let me tell you the story of Cardinal Mazarin, the man who was hated by everyone, exiled twice, hunted by his own people, and still died as the most powerful man in France, because he understood something about human nature that most people will never learn. Here is how he did it. France, 1651. The streets of Paris were on fire. A mob of angry nobles and citizens had one single target: Cardinal Mazarin, the chief minister of France. They hated him. They wrote songs mocking him. They printed pamphlets calling him a thief, a foreigner, a manipulator. The young King Louis XIV was only 13 years old, and the enemies of the crown saw their chance to destroy Mazarin once and for all. They forced him into exile. They thought they had won. They were wrong. Because while Mazarin was physically removed from France, he never stopped working. From his exile, he continued writing letters to the Queen, advising the king, pulling strings across Europe. He had spent years doing something his enemies never understood. He had made himself so deeply necessary to the French crown that removing him physically meant nothing. The system he had built was still running. His influence was still everywhere. 2 years later, he returned to France in triumph. The same people who had exiled him were now powerless. And Louis XIV, the man who would become the greatest king in European history, called Mazarin the only true teacher he ever had. So how did Mazarin do it? How does any person make themselves so powerful that even their enemies cannot destroy them? The answer lies in 3 principles of dark psychology that Mazarin understood better than anyone alive. The first principle is what I call the architecture of dependency. Most people spend their entire lives trying to prove their value. They work harder. They talk louder. They show everyone what they can do. And it never works, because the moment you stop performing, people forget you. Mazarin did the opposite. He never showed everything he knew. He always kept something in reserve. A connection, a secret, a solution that only he had access to. When people came to him with problems, he solved them in a way that made them come back. Not because he was generous, but because he structured every favor so that the solution created a new need. He didn't just fix problems. He became the only person who could fix them. This is the architecture of dependency, and it is the most powerful force in human relationships. The moment someone believes that their life is easier, safer, or more successful with you in it, you have power that cannot be taken away by force. Think about the most influential people in your own life. The ones you call when things go wrong. The ones whose opinion you seek before making big decisions. They are not necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They are the ones who have made themselves necessary. The second principle is silence as dominance. Mazarin never argued, ever. When people attacked him, and they attacked him constantly, he smiled, said very little, and continued working. His enemies found this infuriating. They wanted a reaction. They wanted drama. They wanted him to defend himself so they could tear his defense apart. He gave them nothing. And in giving them nothing, he gave them no ammunition. Here is what most people do not understand about silence. it is not passive. It is the most aggressive move available to a person who understands power. When you defend yourself, you are saying, your attack matters enough for me to respond to. When you stay silent, you are saying, you are not even worth my energy. Mazarin understood that every argument he won verbally was a political loss because it made him look threatened. Every argument he refused to have made him look untouchable. The third principle is emotional invisibility. Mazarin never let anyone see what he truly wanted. In every negotiation, every meeting, every conversation, he appeared calm, even indifferent, while other men revealed their desires through excitement or frustration. Mazarin kept his face like stone. And this gave him an extraordinary advantage, because the moment your opponent knows what you want, they know exactly how to control you. Think about the last time you wanted something badly and showed it. A job, a relationship, an opportunity. The moment the other person saw how much you wanted it, the power shifted to them. Mazarin never allowed this. He trained himself to appear equally satisfied with any outcome, and this made people constantly unsure of where they stood with him. Uncertainty is the currency of power. When people cannot read you, they cannot manipulate you. When they cannot predict your next move, they are always slightly off balance. And a person who is off balance is a person who is not in control. These three principles, the architecture of dependency, silence as dominance, and emotional invisibility, are not theories. They are the operating system of every person in history who held real, lasting power. Not the power that comes from a title or a position, the power that lives inside a person, the kind that cannot be exiled, cannot be stripped away, and cannot be destroyed by enemies. Mazarin was exiled twice, mocked publicly, hunted by mobs, and he died in his bed, surrounded by the greatest collection of art in Europe, having shaped the most powerful king in French history. Because real power was never about what people thought of him. It was about what they needed from him. The question is not whether these principles work. History has already answered that. The question is, are you willing to stop performing for people who do not deserve your energy? Stop defending yourself to people who have already decided what they think, and start building a life where your presence is something people value rather than take for granted. If the answer is yes, then you already think differently from most people. And that is exactly where power begins. Stay with this channel, because we are just getting started.